Hi students, in today's class we're going to learn about photosynthesis, okay, and which is the second unit from your grade 11 textbook. And now before we knowing about photosynthesis, for roughly we can say it's a process of producing food, okay, producing food. So basically we need to know why food is so essential, why we need to know about food and why food is essential, like that. We all live, like as humans we all consume food from our birth to our death, okay. Uh, uh, we all consume food to grow and to be alive, okay. Other than if we don't have food, we'll die, okay. Not only humans, also other animals and other living being also will die without food. And uh, all the living beings need food to exist. So it's like essential thing to survive in this earth. Like other things like oxygen, shelter, and water. This food is also important to our survival, okay. Now we going to we know, like we intake our food in many ways, right? We as human, when we look at us, we intake food in many ways, like we get from plants. What we get is fruit and vegetables like it. And from animals we get egg and fish, meat, like that. We all survive. So we all get food in this way. Like every animal have its own way, right? How when easily what we can watch in the nature easily can be understood one. So when we look at a cow, yeah, it's grass or other leafy foods, okay. So what we need to know is in common, even human and other animals intake their food in a way like depending on the another animal, right? like like human and other animals also, human and other animals intake insects and everything dependent for food in another organism, okay. For food, okay, in another organism. It may be like organism, maybe like plant or animal or anything else. When we look at um, another organism, means it's not only about animals, it's also plants, right? They are also living beings and also like microorganism, you can say, right? So here these living beings are dependent for food in another organism. And when we look like, I want to say, like in this organism, we can get to human also. We are also an animal scientifically, or we are also a living organism, right? So when we look like mosquito, they drink our blood. So where it get fed, where it depend on for food, it's human, right? So we also can add a human here. So all of these things depend for food in another organism. So they are specially called heterotrophic. Okay, they are called as heterotrophic. Heterotrophs are the ones who depend for food in another organism. Then, now have you thought about plants? What do plants do? What do plants do? Do you ever seen like plants eating another plant, or have you ever watched like, let me do something. So I'm going to ask about green plants mainly. Okay, here we're going to mainly see about green plants, and there are reasons for it. So I'm asking for now, have you ever watched a plant eating a plant for their food? No. A plant eating an animal for their food? No. Then how did the plant ever die because of not having food? Did all plant die without having food? No. Then how do they get food here? So here we are going to look how these plants get food, right? And this is the thing we are going to say, that plants have a special ability. Okay, plants have a special ability to produce their own food, and here plants will plants will produce their own food, produce their own food. Okay, then they produce their own food and they will use it for their needs. So here not like other animals, not like, so we have animals didn't prepare their own food. Humans didn't prepare their own food, but these plants produce their own food. So these are known as these plants, green plants mainly. We can say like green plants. Okay, green plants. And green plants are specially known as autotrophs. Okay, autotrophs. So they say, so they prepare their own food for their needs. So they automatically do their things for their need, not like other animals. So we call them autotrophs here. Okay, and when we look deep into this, what we need to think is we all are dependent on other organisms for food, not like plants, but we all are directly or indirectly dependent on plants. Have you ever noticed it? Like we all are dependent for food in another plant. Okay, we all are dependent because animals and humans, when we think directly or indirectly, I'm going to say like animals and humans are the main things. Like I'll say like directly or indirectly, like that. Indirectly, we all depend on plants or photosynthesis. And when we look, we can see like we herbivores and like omnivores, they intake food from plant directly, right? Plant, we get fruits, vegetables, and everything we consume, right? And here we can say that we are dependent on plants or photosynthesis directly. Okay, we depend on plant and directly. But you may think like, what? Then how do they carnivores will be dependent on photosynthesis, or how do this can happen? And all I want to say is, when you look deep into the food chain of it, we can notice that it also depend on plant indirectly. So if there's an animal that intakes animal, you may think like, what? How this dependent on plant, it just depend on another animal, it doesn't depend on photosynthesis or anything else. But if you go through this animal live by consuming another animal maybe or another plant, and this animal may be consuming another animal or a plant. So here we'll take a plant. So here this for to live, this animal to live intakes this plant. So and this animal live by intaking this animal. So animal one, maybe animal one, animal two. This one is animal three. So animal three intakes animal two to live. But how did this animal two live? By intaking animal one. But how this animal one live? By intaking plants. So this is how indirectly these animals also are dependent on plant. This is what I wanted to say. We all are dependent on plants and photosynthesis, and we all are. That's why advised to know not to destruct forest, okay, and also plant new trees. This is how this gonna happen. And the process of that we said that green plants produce their own food, right? That process of producing their own food comes with that process of producing their own food is what we going to say as photosynthesis, okay. Photosynthesis, and that process of producing their own food, that process. And here on your textbook they have given like a simple diagram to get to know about this process easily, to get a clear a rough idea about this, okay. This is how the picture goes here, like um just gonna draw that one. Here comes sun, and green plant. They have specially shown us a leaf here, okay. And what I need to say is the basic thing they say here is solar energy comes from to plant, right? Solar energy, right? Then first all we need to know is that is not something special, okay. Everything in this earth get their solar energy, and the primary source of energy is sun, okay. Always it's sun, and we get solar energy for many uses, and we all get freely, uh, and as like it only plants also get the solar energy, okay. And when we look, we get solar energy, we humans get solar energy to get vitamin D in the early mornings there. And to from solar panels we use that solar energy to create produce electricity, right? So this is how we use that solar energy, we utilize in many ways. Likewise the sun also get the solar energy here. And for the next thing, what happen is the plant will this is the soil, and the plant roots will absorb water. Plant root hairs will absorb water which we pour for plants, right? They absorb the water through their xylem, right? we know that about in that previous unit. So they get water. Okay, they get solar energy. Here they get water. Also plant leaves. When we look at plant leaves, they intake CO2. Then how do they get it? Because like as we have lungs for our respiration, to exchange our respiratory gases. Plants, what do plants have is guard cells, right? Guard cells, and they exchange their CO2 and oxygen, right? So here they intake CO2, and as a result of photosynthesis they give us oxygen, also glucose. And no, don't we don't need to get a clear explanation about glucose. We know about glucose in grade 10 first unit, right? That glucose is a monosaccharide, and it can be stored in many ways. It can be used for energy. Uh, it can be hydrolyzed and everything like that, right? And here it can be stored as starch and everything, we know. And this glucose is now we have just known how this glucose is produced. That's it. And now this is the clear this is just a rough picture of this, and they have given us the definition which is more important to remember here. And the definition of photosynthesis is can also easily remembered. Okay, how? By using those words which we have said before in this diagram, right? Like what we need what we get. Like what we get, right? What we get, like solar energy. Point number one, solar energy, right? And next, what we get is this happens in green plants. I have said like this is important to mention that it's green plant, because you've known like cascuta and everything, which are parasite, right? Parasites. So they don't what do? They absorb the water and other nutrients from other plants. So they are not producing their own food. They are not photosynthetic, because they are not green in color. That's the thing. Okay, not green in color, not green. So we want to mention this green specially, because they only have the pigment called chlorophyll. Okay, this the chlorophyll is the green pigment that they used to in this photosynthesis. Okay, and so here there are plants which is not in green. So we need to mention the green plant does this mainly. Okay, and the other thing we said is water and CO2. Okay, and what we going to just rearrange these words and just so here we are going to say like utilizing the energy from utilizing the solar energy, and we're going to produce what we're going to produce food. We're going to synthesis food, and you from utilizing the energy from sun, and this process happen in green plant cells. Okay, by utilizing the energy from sunlight, the cells that contain chlorophyll in green plants, that cell contains chlorophyll in green plant, synthesis food as using water and carbon dioxide as raw material. This process is what we're going to say as photosynthesis. So it's simply utilizing the energy from sunlight, and the cells from green plant cell, the cells from green plant which contain chlorophyll synthesis food by using water and CO2 as a raw material. Okay, that's the definition. Yeah, it's so when we clearly note the points, we can easily memorize the we can easily memorize the definition, and definition is more important in science, right? Okay. The next topic they have shown is factors that affect photosynthesis. Okay, factors that affect photosynthesis. And what about those factors? Let's see. Factors. And here we mainly see about how these green plants get for water and carbon dioxide for their photosynthesis, because solar energy, it's free for everywhere, mostly it's free. Okay, and it's when it's a green plant, we can see that chlorophyll is always present for green plant, and there's nothing to worry about them. So we especially see that how these plants get CO2 and water. Okay, commonly the terrestrial plants we seen like different types of plant, right? And terrestrial plants, they get water through the roots. Okay, they get water molecules from the roots. Okay, this is how terrestrial plants get water, and the process are then when we look deep into the root, we know like roots have root hairs, right? Root hairs. So through these root hairs, water molecules from the soil will move into this. The process how this water moves into the root hair is osmosis. That's what we call osmosis. It's a process. The water molecules move. Okay, where through a membrane, um, according to its concentration, wave from its higher to lower place. Here water molecules concentration is low, and here water molecule concentration will be high, and they move from high to low place through a membrane, and this is called osmosis. Okay, they absorb water, then travels into root xylem through cortex and endomysium. We know the cross section of root. Here we have the vascular bundle for when we look like, we know like a xylem is present and phloem is also present, right? For root, for stem and everything. And then we have cortex here, and this is stem. This one is stem, right? And the plant root will be like this. This is the xylem, right? And the plant, when the plant root hair absorbs water, this is what happens. So root hair absorbs water, they transfer from cortex and its endodermis, it goes inside its xylem, and it goes through the xylem to top of the plant, and plant leaves, okay, plant leaves, okay. And here, this is how plants, terrestrial plants get the water, okay. And through this, that mesophile of plants will plant leaves will get the water uh, as a continuity of xylem. There will be a vein system in leaves, right? That's what we know. And plant leaves will be like this. And in the plant vein system, there is xylem. Uh, in vein system also, right? When we look in the plant leaves cross section, we can see that there is like plants vascular bundle, and they get water through this, and there's plant mesophile will get, right? One is epidermis, and this is how plants water will spread through from the plant's vein through to mesophile. This is how plant leaf cells also get water, okay. Then when leaf cells get water, uh, it can produce food. Then we know like plants have get get CO2 from atmosphere, and they have guard cells to get water molecules here, right? And they get CO2 from atmosphere. Here they have mentioned that they have um, uh, through its stomata, it will the CO2 will diffuse into the plant, okay. Then when it reaches the mesophile, uh, this CO2 also wanted to reach mesophile, right? And this will happen through that intercellular spaces. They go through the intercellular spaces to the mesophile and spread inside it. Okay, so mesophile have got water now, have got CO2 now. Okay. And there is a special pigment called chloroplast. When we draw the leaf structure, leaf mesophile, we mentioned like here chloroplast, right? More number of chloroplast in here. And in spongiform cells, there is less number, right? So here that pigment called chloroplast will absorb the life from absorb the energy from sunlight, okay. This will absorb the energy from sunlight energy. This will absorb the energy from sunlight here. And which one will do is the chloroplast in chlorophylls. Sorry, chlorophyll in chloroplasts. Okay, these are chloroplasts. Chloroplast and chloroplast have chlorophyll. here chloroplasts have chlorophyll, and they does this function of absorbing sunlight energy. Okay, accordingly the factors of photosynthesis are, so here the factors are mainly, what are the factors affecting photosynthesis are chlorophyll, amount of chlorophyll, maybe the presence of chlorophyll, and this thing will affect. Then water, yeah, water, CO2, carbon dioxide, and sunlight. And sunlight, we see like sunlight, availability of sunlight in the like winter areas and everything, that will affect. Okay, um, now we have to see the products of photosynthesis, right? Products of photosynthesis. What are the products of photosynthesis? We roughly know what photosynthesis products are. Uh, Glucose and oxygen, right? Now we're gonna see that in detail. The glucose produced during photosynthesis will be temporarily stored at starch in leaves. Later, part of that starch is converted into sucrose and transported into other tissues via phloem. The sucrose that is transported to storing organs stored is starch. Okay. The main thing, when we synthesis, the food will be synthesized as glucose. The formula is C6H12O6. Okay, and this one will be, there are more number of glucose will be formed, right? And they will be stored as starch. And we know like n number of glucose will form starch, right? Glucose will form starch, and here it will be stored as starch in plants. When we eat, we when it's stored, we get fruits, right? It will be stored in its tubers and uh, underground stems, and like we get carrot, and we get potatoes, and there are that's where we found that starch, they are stored as starch. And when the plant need nutrition, what it do is, it will the glucose will be changed into sucrose. Sucrose means, the formula of sucrose is C12H22O11. Okay, it's 22O11, and it will be converted into sucrose. Sucrose means glucose plus fructose, right? It's a disaccharide, right? And this sucrose, this will be converted into sucrose form and will be transported through phloem. And the phloem is the one which is responsible to transport nutrition, right? So this will go through phloem to the different parts where plant need nutrition, for leaves, for stems to grow, and everything. This sucrose will travel through phloem, and and if there's extra, they'll store here as starch. Okay, if glucose will be, when it's needed, it will be provided as sucrose for their need through phloem, and when it not used, it will be stored as starch here. Okay, this is how plants get their how they manage the glucose they produce. Okay. and when the sucrose will be transported to the storing organs will be also stored as starch, because there is no use. They don't need that nutrition, so they don't want to use the nutrition, so just they have saved it, they have just stored it. And this the way they store is a form of starch, in the form of starch. That's it. And the byproduct of photosynthesis is oxygen, right? We know that. And those oxygen will be diffused to the atmosphere through the stomata, as how these plants got the carbon dioxide from atmosphere. Okay, like they've got CO2 from atmosphere through their stomata, and they will diffuse the oxygen also through their stomata to atmosphere. It will be diffused. Okay, and the photosynthesis can be expressed in a equation, like how we say, like that hydrolysis of glucose, we have equation, right? Like why is it we have a equation for photosynthesis too. Here we use, what we use is carbon dioxide. Okay, it's a word equation. There's a symbolic chemical equation also, carbon dioxide plus water. So here it's a word equation, and when it's mentioned, all we need to use is only words, no symbols, right? Here using sunlight, green plants have the pigment of pigment known as chlorophyll, and what they produce is glucose plus oxygen. That's the word equation for photosynthesis. Here next we're going to see the equation, chemical equation also. Here carbon dioxide plus what, chlorophyll, sunlight glucose plus oxygen. Now we'll use the symbols for each component in this equation for chemical equation. Here for carbon dioxide, CO2 plus water is H2O. We don't have symbol for chlorophyll and sunlight. Here we have symbol for glucose, O2. Okay, this is how we organize this expression. And here, if it's a chemical equation, all we need is physical state is more important. So we'll mention the physical state: CO2 gas, oxygen gas, glucose is solid, water is liquid. So this is how we mention, and we'll balance the equation, right? 6O2, 6CO2, 6H2O. Done. This is how the chemical equation is mentioned, with physical state and also balanced. Okay. And uh, we uh, we know that sunlight have 7 colors, right? With G or right, 7 colors. And plants absorb blue and red color lights for the photosynthesis. Blue and red for photosynthesis. They absorb uh, the blue and red lights from the sunlight for photosynthesis. Okay. So when glucose is produced from photosynthesis, it will be temporarily will be stored as starch. It will be temporarily stored as starch in the leaves. Okay, in leaves. In leaves, it will be temporarily, it will produce glucose, and it will be temporarily stored as starch here itself, and later it will be changed to sucrose and travel through phloem to the other organs of plant. Okay, now we can test that plant leaves have got starch here, so we can confirm that glucose is produced here through photosynthesis. So here they have given an experiment that to pluck a leaf from a plant which was in sunlight and boil in water. So first we are boiling in water uh, first we are boiling in water the leaf. Okay, wash the leaf and put few drops of iron. So to identify starch, you know that starch, it's iron experiment. What is the, and what the observation will be like dark blue, right? uh, Dark blue or dark purple, we say blue or dark purple, we say that is the main experiment to identify starch. Here we going to do a starch experiment, and here we use a little drops of what little drops of iodine here. Okay, there are some reasons why we wash in water, and also why we use alcohol here. And as chlorophyll can be dissolved in alcohol, because we can if there is chlorophyll, we cannot observe the color change clearly, right? So we can't if the leaf will be still green, and the color change can be not uh, watched easily. So we dissolve the chlorophyll in the leaf by alcohol, and then the solution becomes green when the chlorophyll is dissolved, right? So the solution becomes green, and the leaf becomes the pale color. So here we use alcohol, right? Here we use alcohol. So what we need to do is we know that alcohol is highly inflammable, so we cannot burn it straightly. So here we use water baths to boil it. This is how this happens. And first we need to remove its color towards clear observation. And there we need alcohol, but alcohol is more inflammable. So we need to keep with water. Okay, alcohol, the chlorophyll. Okay, and as if we put iodine drops, and the leaf turns into a dark purple or a blue color, then we can surely say that in this leaf the starch is present, because the experiment for starch is this iodine experiment. Okay, so, okay, let's see the next topic in our next class. Now I'll wind up this class. Thank you.